Well, I'm Dana Grimes in Spectrum News Washington Bureau, here with Marc Morial, the president of the National Urban League, to talk about this year's State of Black America report. Marc, thank you so much for joining us here.
Daniel, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, I want to get right into the report. You talk about this year's inequality index for Black Americans is at 75.7%. What does that figure mean?
So what it means is African Americans index at 75% of where white Americans index on key social and economic indicators. What are we talking about? Unemployment, home ownership, life expectancy, median income, median wealth, if you will. That's an example of some of the things we measure. So Black Americans have made progress, and the nation has made progress since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But what this demonstrates is that parity remains elusive. And at the rate of progress that we've been making as a nation, parity is still 180 years away. That's the important point. We've got to accelerate this. We had a period of acceleration. It was 1964, 65 to about 1980. But what we're facing today is a new resistance movement, attacks on democracy and voting, attacks on equal access to jobs and business opportunities. They call it an attack on DE&I. Attacks on truthfulness about American history. They call it book bans. People should not be confused that these attacks are simply efforts to stall and thwart some of the important progress we've made in this nation.
Well, 180 years, that is stark.
It's stark.
Can be done to really offset that and shorten that?
We have to accelerate. There's got to be a commitment. And that commitment understands that parity means a better economy for all. Parity means less poverty for all. Parity means a more dynamic American economy. So we've got to work on things like home ownership, work on things like closing the income and the wealth gap. Some strategies are the child tax credit. Some strategies are things like baby bonds. Some strategies are increasing the minimum wage on a national basis and make it a living wage and index it to inflation. There are many, many things that we can do. We need a will to do it. We need it to be a national priority. We saw in the aftermath of the tragic murder of George Floyd, commitments being made by people in this nation. Corporate commitments, philanthropic commitments, commitments by the President of the United States to centralize racial justice. Some now seem to have said, I'm standing firm. Others are saying, well, I may backtrack. I'd like to encourage those who may be thinking about backtracking to have the courage to stand firm for what's best for the nation.
Well, and I also want to note, I went through the report. It is not all bad, thankfully.
Oh,
there
no.
are definitely some signs of hope.
No
The
question.
incarceration rate is now 6.5 times smaller. Can you just highlight some of the good
We
things?
still incarcerate too many people.
Yeah.
The criminal justice system is still lacking in justice and equity. But here's the thing. If you look at the job situation, we've got the lowest black unemployment we've had since they've been keeping the numbers. If you look at college graduation and high school graduation rates, we are doing better than we've done in a long time. But on the flip side of that, many of these young people are graduating from college burdened by debt. The president has sought to address some of that. But his big vision, his big plan was stopped by who? The Supreme Court. The same Supreme Court which undercut the Voting Rights Act. The same Supreme Court which has basically turned its back on affirmative action. So what we have to understand is that the Supreme Court, in my own opinion, as a lawyer, as someone who's been involved with cases before that court, has now become a politically oriented body. They're reversing precedent. They're picking and choosing important progress that this nation has made. They undercut reproductive rights. So I want people to know that it's in the state legislatures, in a number of states, that this resistance to progress is basically being energized. It's in the judicial system, where you really have appointees of Mr. Trump who have become politicized in much of their decision making, who are undercutting much of the progress we've made. So what does that mean? We have work to do. Why should we do it? Because in America that produces opportunities that are real for all is an America that'll be great for all.
Well, and you mentioned having work to do. You gave the Biden administration a report card of sorts, talking about some of the unfinished business, the promises kept. Can you just explain?
Look, the fact of the matter is the president made commitments that no other president made in American history. And he kept substantially most of those commitments so far. He's only 3 years in, and some of the work still has to come to fruition, and there's some important things that still have to be done. What we examined is, in many cases, several of the important things that did not get done: voting rights, police accountability, for example, comprehensive new living or minimum wage bill, got blocked in the Congress of the United States, got blocked more particularly in the Senate, got blocked more specifically by the filibuster.
Well, 180 years. I certainly hope I can see that parity in my lifetime, that we can shorten that figure. But thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, and congratulations to you.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.